Alright, so where I take over is we assume that you've done all of these things properly. You've come in there and we've said, yes, we want to see your manuscript. And at that point, we take it in, and normally now I look at it in more detail and I start looking for peer reviewers, because every publisher or scholarly publisher has to do peer reviews. Life sucks, but you have to do it. No, it's a very important part. The peer review process is some people think of it as an unfriendly process, but it doesn't need to be. What we do is we try and find at least 2 readers. In some cases we do more, depends on what we're looking for. But 2 readers who are experts in your discipline, who can give us constructive feedback on this manuscript. Not just, well, first of all, should we pursue publication of this book? Is this book going to make a difference or a contribution to the scholarly book industry? Is there potential for this? Is this important? Then they'll also, hopefully, in a good report, peer review, tell you a little bit more, make some suggestions perhaps, and say, maybe you should do a little more on that, or give you advice on where to trim, etc. So if you do get the right reviews, don't always get them, but that's your ideal, is let's try and get to a point that is really helps you focus your work even more. The peer reviews are blind peer reviews. You do not know, and you are not allowed to know, who has done these reports. All right? However, in most cases, they know who you are. And we try and find people who are not in conflict. Sometimes, if it's a very cross-disciplinary piece of work, we may want more than 2 peer reviewers, because you're covering more disciplines and we need different people to come at different angles. So we really do look at what the project demands. At roughly this time, while we get gathering the peer reviews, publishers in Canada do rely a lot on generating funds for the manuscript. A big source of funding for us is the Aid to Scholarly Publications program, and Kel over there will be able to tell you a lot more than we can about the process. But at roughly this time, when we get the peers or these peer reviews, we do have to submit the manuscript to the Aid to Scholarly Publications program to be eligible for theirs. It is an author grant. Let's not forget that. But I know from our perspective, we prefer to ask you to fill in as much of the information as you can, but we submit it on your behalf. So once it goes to ASPP, it disappears into Kel's hands, and then we all wonder what happens to it.
It's a great mystery. It's one of the great mysteries in academia.
And hopefully, if we are good, she will dish out the candy to us. That's what we're all hoping for. It doesn't mean that if you don't get ASPP funding that your book will not be published. Some people make that mistake and think that that is definitely the end of the line, no more publication. It just makes it a little harder. How long does peer review take?
Depends on the peer.
One of our colleagues, we were talking this morning, and said, the answer to everything is, it depends. In an ideal world, we ask for peer reviewers to do a turnaround of 4 to 6 weeks. Again, how busy is the peer reviewer at this particular time? How diligent is the peer reviewer? How long is your manuscript? How complex is your manuscript? There are no hard and fast rules. Things happen. Life intervenes. So there's our ideal target timeline for these peer reviews. I'd say in 90% of the time we manage to stick to that. But be patient. My suggestion is I will say to authors, we will keep you informed of the process. We will tell you when there is news to tell. You need not phone us every day. Really.
Please don't phone us.
It's not going to help. We're not going to get through this process any faster. All right? You can expedite things by getting your response back fairly soon. Because, here again, once we hand out the peer-reviewed reports to you, and you take 6 months to respond to them, well then, obviously the process is going to slow down. So, be aware that we have to put it through certain processes. Now that we've got the peer review, it's gone off to ASPP, the application is there with the peer reviews, at that point, we have to take it to a press board, an editorial board, a press committee. It goes by many names. They serve the same function. This is a selected group of scholars and academics, mostly, some cases, depending on how the board is constituted, all from the university or from different universities in the area, who will then take a look at the reports, the package that we present, which includes the 2 peer reviews, your response, the CV, and other relevant information that we may feel, chapter outline if necessary, whatever. And my job as an acquisitions editor is to present this material and to make a case for why we should publish this book. Sometimes the board will come back and say, right, we've looked at the material, but this book still doesn't talk about that. And they may send it back and say, we are interested in this book, but the peer reviews are pointing to certain things. Go get the author to revise this material and bring it back to us. Sometimes they say, not very often, because it's kind of like a dissertation committee. You're not going to go into your defense unless your committee is pretty darn sure you're going to get it and pass. So the same with the book. I'm not going to take one to my press committee unless I am pretty darn sure that they're going to take it. Why would I have them read all the materials when I know they're going to turn a book down? It doesn't make sense to take it forward. It's why prolong the agony? At that point we need to talk. Sometimes when I get the peer reviews, at that point I say, you know what, from these peer reviews, before we go, maybe we should revise, maybe we should do something now and then take it forward, having done the revisions. Let's do it, let's tend to it before we take it to the committee. So most of the time they say, yes, let's go ahead, but sometimes they ask for minor revisions and we attend to it. When that board approves it, that is when we sign and negotiate a contract. Some presses do it earlier, but when they do it earlier, then they include many little ifs along the line. If it passes peer review, if it gets approved by the board, if there is sufficient funding, if. Those are the 3 big ones that normally come in. There may be others, but those are the 3. So if you get a contract early in the process, that's fine, but it will be contingent on those major ifs. At our press, we prefer to take you through that. We'll give you a letter of interest, but at the end of it, when we know that the manuscript has been approved, we know everything is in place, now we can talk about a contract and we don't have those if clauses. It's a matter of preference how you prefer to work. I don't think either way is necessarily better than the other. You end up with the same project or the same product at the end of the day.